Hello again, Tabletop Warriors, and welcome back to the Plague Den. My name's Tony, and this is my channel where we explore the 40K universe. Today's video is going to be about Chaos Space Marines. I'm going to give you 5 tactics to make your Chaos Space Marine army better on the battlefield immediately. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing for more videos just like this. Don't go anywhere, because we're going to go right to it. Okay, so I know Chaos Space Marines was pretty big in the meta for a while, especially that Chaos Soup with Mortarion and Magnus together, and it's kind of fallen out of favor for some other armies that are a little bit more powerful right at this time. So these tactics I'm going to give you are certainly not going to break the meta and make the Chaos army one of the best armies again, but there's certainly tactics that you can use to be more competitive in your local gaming store or your local gaming group, especially if you've got some different Chaos models or you're trying to put a Chaos army together. So here we go with number 1. So number 1 is going to be the Exalted Champion and the Dark Apostle with some Chosen. So if you take the Exalted Champion, he lets you reroll wounds in the fight phase. And he's not that expensive. He's only 5 power level. He's 70 points base, and he's pretty good. He's a newer model. He doesn't really even have a model out yet. The Dark Apostle's a pretty overlooked model too. He's 76 points. He does have a 4+ invul, and he lets you reroll all of your hits in the fight phase. So now you have, for basically about 150 points, you have 2 HQ units that will let you reroll all your hits and let you reroll all your wounds. If you put them with Chosen, who are, the base 2 attack, it's going to cost you about 346 points to put them with 8 Chosen and then put them all into a Rhino. So you could basically take your Rhino, move it up with 8 Chosen and the Exalted Champion and the Dark Apostle all inside. Get through that first shooting phase, get them out, and hopefully get into combat with them, re-rolling all hits and all wounds. If you want to spend more points, obviously there's a lot that you can do with the Chosen. You can add a bunch of different weapons, power weapons, give them different marks. So the 2 legions I'm working with here, I think you would be the World Eaters, that gives them all an extra attack in the fight phase, or the Renegade chapter, which allows them to charge after they advance. So all infantry units can charge after they advance. So that's number 1. Exalted Champion and Dark Apostle, 2 overlooked HQ models that are super cheap. They do a lot of really cool stuff. Put them with Chosen that I think are very takeable in 8th edition. And you basically have a 10-man unit that can reroll hits and wounds and put them in a Chaos Rhino to get them up there into position. The only unfortunate drawback to this is the Dark Apostle really doesn't have a whole lot of ways to move them around, or the Exalted Champion, other than a Rhino. Okay, so number 2 is going to be Havocs. I think even though Havocs fill the heavy weapon slot, they are the same base price as the Chaos Space Marine troop choice. So if you're filling your troop choices with Cultist or some of the other specialty ones that you can take as troops under the different legions, Havocs are just better because you can have more flexibility with the special weapons and the heavy weapons that you put on them. And now that you can split fire any way you want, you have more ways to use them. So you don't have to kit them out with all the same weapon system if you don't want to, especially if you take more than just the base 5. Now I know the GW Havoc kit is pretty old and it isn't real customizable, and it comes with each of the weapons, but so that's kind of a hurdle to get over, is get the weapons to model the Havocs. But once you're done, I think that's a much better option than just taking Chaos Space Marines, again, if you don't need the troop choice. Now power level wise, they are 7 power level as compared to Chaos Space Marines, which are only the 5. So if you're playing power level, this really doesn't work, but just for point, they're the same base. Number 3, Chaos Bikers. So I did a whole video on this. I think these guys are underplayed. You want to take the Renegade chapters, Dark Raiders, Legion trait that allows them to advance and charge in the same turn. They do have a 14-inch. They have 14-inch movement, and they have a 6-inch automatic advance, and then you can obviously charge up to 12 more inches if you roll a 12. So a first turn charge is completely not out of the question. And if you put assault weapons on them, flamers or melt-a-guns, you can kind of get two uses out of them by hitting a target with the melt-a-guns and then charging a target. Or you can put flamers on there and do those automatic hits. Again, they have 2 wounds. I think they are best used with that Renegade chapters, and I think that they're a good tool for a multi-purpose unit that you can use with a bunch of different armies. You can make them into attachment with, if you make them Red Corsairs, you could take Huron Blackheart, or you could put them with a Lord on a bike. I think they fit a certain niche and a role in your army, and they can be really good. Number 4, not so much a tactic as it is a character, but Huron Blackheart. He doesn't see a whole lot of play. You don't hear a whole lot about him. Only when the Codex comes out, people talk about him because he's an HQ choice. But he does have a lot of good things going for him, especially if you're going to try to work that Renegade chapter's Dark Raider tactics. He is the Lord of the Red Corsairs, so you get to re-roll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Corsairs unit within 6 inches. And I know it says Corsairs, and that's his Legion. That does fall under the the Renegades chapter. You can paint your models whatever color you want and call them Red Corsairs as the Legion. It's okay. It's just the name Red Corsairs. I mean, you would have to call them the Legion Red Corsairs in order to take Huron Blackheart. But he does have the familiar that lets him cast an extra psychic spell. And interesting enough, that familiar is also part of his unit. So those 2 entities are a single unit. So let's say someone targets him with a las gun and it rolls a 6 on the damage. Well, you put all 6 wounds onto the familiar dies, and Huron Blackheart is still alive. So that's one basically free shot, anywhere from 1 to 6 wounds gone. Plus the familiar does have a 3-up save, so it can take a few bolter shots maybe before it dies. He does have the 4+ invul. One of the biggest things is you get an additional command point for him if your army is battle forged. So I think that that's really good. I think it's something to look into if you're looking for HQ choices for your army and you want to play that Renegades chapter. He does give you that extra command point, and he's a pretty good, very fluffy, pretty good character as an HQ choice. Okay, so number 5 is Obliterators. They're really good. Even if you roll bad on their flesh metal weapons, it's still pretty good. If you roll good on the flesh metal weapons, they're really great. You can drop them in with the Chaos Lord, give them the Marcus Lanesh, drop the Endless Cacophony on them, and fire twice. And if they don't eat up a bunch of stuff in your opponent's backline, you're doing something wrong. So this is a great little tactic to just kind of deep strike them into the backline with a Lord. They get to reroll the 1s. You can put that strategy on them. They get to refire immediately. There won't be much left after they get done basically firing twice. So I think that's really good. That's number 5. Okay, so I'm going to give you a bonus tactic. I think this is pretty cool. Not the greatest in the world when it comes to being super competitive, but I think it's pretty cool. So for the Fallen and Cypher, you can take Cypher and you can take 3 units of Fallen, each unit of Fallen having a combi plasma and a power sword on the champion, 3 plasma guns, and a las cannon, all for 569 points. So that's a Vanguard detachment, HQ, and 3 units, 3 elite units that can go in any Chaos Space Marine or any Imperium army as a Vanguard detachment. The cool thing is Cypher obviously lets them reroll 1, so they're only missing on 2s, and even if he dies and they don't move, they still can get their rerolls. So I think it's a great little unit. You can't do a whole lot with them in terms of the stratagems and the Legion traits and all that stuff, but for a Vanguard unit that you can use 569 points, you get 3 las cannons, You're looking at 9 plasma guns and 3 combi plasmas, and obviously Cypher's a pretty good HQ. I think that's a great little detachment to run that if you have multiple armies, you can run in multiple armies, both Imperium and Chaos. So there you go. There's 5 tactics to make your Chaos army better. I don't think, like I said before, I don't think any of these tactics are going to break the meta open, but I do think that there's some units in the Chaos Space Marine book that are underused and could definitely be more playable, especially if you have the army and you already have some of these models and you're looking for some different things to do with them. I think Chosen are really good in 8th edition, and they've been kind of overused. The Exalted Champion and the Dark Apostle, given that reroll hits and reroll wounds in combat, and the bikes, and being able to use that Renegade chapters tactic Legion, I think is, or Legion tactic, I think is really good too. Please comment down below and tell me some of the things that you've been using, some of the tactics that you use for your Chaos Space Marines army, and what kind of models you're using. And there's a lot of stuff in the book, and there's a lot of different ways to use it. So please let me know. Maybe there's some things that I haven't seen on there, or a new way to do things. So I love trying to figure out ways to make my army better, and going through the Chaos Space Marine book and utilizing some underused models or some models I've had from the past. I started my Chaos Space Marines army back in 5th edition with Plague Marines, and it was 1,850 points of all Plague Marines. So I really enjoy kind of going through the book and trying to find some different tactics that you can use, especially ones that are a little bit fluffy and interesting and kind of cool to use. And again, none of these are going to break the meta wide open, but they are ones that will certainly make your Chaos army more competitive. So thanks for watching, and again, please comment down below, and if you like this video, please consider subscribing for more videos from the Plague Den. Until next time, this is Tony saying to win all your battles in life and on the tabletop.